to The Balancing Act. Now here's your hosts, Jamie Wonko and Joe Vitale.
Welcome back to this podcast. I hope you guys are having a great summer. On our last episode, we had best of advice, and this best of episode is going to feature our best of parenting advice. And of course, anybody who's listened to the show knows that Joe and I are both parents, and just like all parents, we're trying our best, doing the work every day. And so we put together some of the really great pieces of advice that we picked up this year as we try to balance work, family, parenting, children, our parents, just all the things, right? So we hope that you enjoy. On behalf of Joe and I, enjoy Best of Parenting Tips.
Today we're going to talk about and express some of the concerns and issues that have come up from some of our good friends and colleagues, and just about what it is and what it means to be a parent when your child is of school age, and the responsibilities or lack thereof that that we've witnessed in our 25 years of educating.
Yeah. I want to actually start with Dee Hankins, who is an inspirational speaker, and he's a fan of educators on Instagram. His post is, I wouldn't necessarily call it controversial, but I think it's an important one. And Jamie, I think I had sent this to you the other day when he talks about how, when kids are showing up to school with the nicest of the nice, with nice shoes and a brand new iPhone and AirPods, and they're failing their classes in middle school, that is a parenting issue and not a school issue.
It is not the teachers. It is not the school. The school and the teachers are a supporting cast. The habits that they need to succeed in school are built at home first, with the parent first. If your kid is failing middle school, failing high school, but coming to school with Jordans, has an Xbox, a PlayStation 5, hanging out with friends, got a bicycle, he's popping wheelies down the street, he's got a brand new cell phone with Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat, but he's failing middle school, that is a parent thing.
But I kind of wholeheartedly agree with that statement. I know it's difficult, a difficult stance to take, but we have a number of young people that I've dealt with over my career that have the newest of everything, yet they are not, their education part of life is not valued. And the parents are not showing up to parent meetings or returning phone calls or responding to emails. And that's a very challenging thing as an educator to do, especially when we're supposed to fix all the world's problems. That is a challenge.
Do you think that there's a couple of different layers to things that might be causing a problem. I do think that, there is a misconception when a child leaves grammar school, elementary school, that they're going to, they're so responsible and they should be taking care of their own business. And so I think what was always part of my back to school night speech as a sixth grade teacher, that was so the kids would go K-5, then they'd come in 6. And it was always my back to school night speech to the parents who came, which, let's say in a class of 25 kids, it would be maybe 5 or 6 people, which was a lot for 6. The numbers really went down by 8th grade, but the parents, I would say to them on back to school night, you may have this idea that your child is entering these grades and that you should be giving them, kind of stepping back a little bit. And I disagree. I think you should lean in. And lean in was always a check, ask, talk, see how much information you can get out of them and stay on top of them, because some kids really and genuinely cannot handle that, fly away bird. They're not equipped. They're not mature enough. They can't do it. And, and so that is part of the problem. The other part of the problem is perhaps like lack of consequences. Like when you get to high school, if you fail, you don't continue.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we don't have that in middle school. In many cases, they want to sort of push them along and get them going.
Correct. I
Yeah.
mean, we understand that there's a monetary component to reschooling a child in a school district. That's an additional amount of money that has to be accounted for that for that child to have an extra year of school. And I'd be interested to know. I really would be like, what's the data on kids that are retained in a later grade, and whether or not they actually finally wind up graduating from high school, or do they wind up in some sort of academy or getting their GED, which there's nothing wrong with.
Right.
But if like, what's the goal? And I don't necessarily know if that's necessarily retention or passing.
Right.
Excuse me. So that is definitely something that's challenging for me to think of. I've again, we've been teaching for a very long time. A handful of kids have been retained. We now have summer school where kids are asked to go and complete work. I don't know how rigorous that is.
Yeah.
And can you really make up a year's worth of content in 2 weeks? I don't or 3 weeks, whatever it is. I don't
No.
necessarily think so.
But I think it's something that I'm thankful God has helped me with. My wife has helped me with a ton. Is just there's a great book by Chip Heath called The Power of Moments, and basically I think it's great for it's more of a corporate leaning book, but it basically goes through all these great organizations and what they do with moments, whether it's celebrating, whether it's first day for some new employees, new hires, and it's kind of like it's really great to see how do you harness those moments, those ones that we talked about that can be so impactful. And so I really just try to be, talking about all in is, just really, and I know it's an old cliche, but it's, just be fully there. I remember there was times I would come into my house and my daughter, she was young, and, she would like tap my pant leg when I'd come in, and she was, looking to feel, my cell phone. And, it's cute until, you remember child psychology that you took in college, and it tells you that at age of 10 months, kids can discern what we value as adults, and they always look to usurp it as a survival instinct, right? And I don't know, the idea started just bouncing around in my mind, like, does she think she needs to have the cell phone in her hand because she's watching mommy and daddy and she thinks that's what makes her valuable? And I really was, maybe I was a little overreacting, but I was convicted by that thought. And so my wife was able to get this box off of Amazon. You can still buy it. It's like this, like, maybe 8-inch by 8-inch box cube, and it has a little dial at the top. And, you could put something inside of it. You put the top on, it looks like Tupperware, but you turn the dial, a little LCD screen comes on, and, numbers start to go across. You press the top of the box. There's no cancel button. Anything you put in the box, it locks until the time elapses. And, it's made of plastic, so if I needed to, I could just break it. And I think we've been through like 3 or 4 boxes by now. But, I just love the idea. We used to, keep it on the kitchen table of like being able to come in, and I would take the phone out and put it in the box, as she was watching. And it's kind of cool because the kids know when the phone goes in the box, that means, hey, I'm all there, kind of thing. Or they know that, oh, okay, hey, that's mommy and daddy, like break time or Sabbath time. Like they're all focused on us, and man, we're going to break out the Legos, or, we're going to do painting with mommy, or, we're going to, order Uber Eats or whatever the case may be. And I just love that they know it's not a constant, and so for me, that's kind of become one of those things of realizing, hey, I can't make more hours in the day, but I can really learn to focus the time I do have. Because I mean, and I think it unnerves a lot of the students we work with when you have a conversation with them and you look them in the eye the whole time. Because even as adults, we've all been to those parties or functions, right, where someone's always looking over our shoulder as we're having the conversation. And it's kind of like,
Yeah,
you really want to hear this? You really want to hear the story, or
that's actually something that I am
Mr. Vitale.
I
You know
am
what?
awful at it.
Actually,
I'm
I have
awful
to
at it.
tell you something that kills me. And I'm at fault for my phone for sure. But something that drives me absolutely nuts is the iPhone watch. What Apple
yeah,
Watch?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like you're in the middle of talking to someone and they're like, oh yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, And I'm like,
Yep.
your arm is in front of your face now in our conversation. But it has really become like and it's not just you, Joe. I'm sorry. It's lots of people.
No, I'll own it.
But he does it a lot. And I've had a couple of like interactions with bosses, people out in the world, and I'm like, is this really what we're becoming?
My most
You
difficult
know.
my most difficult time is like in the class when a student comes up to you and they're talking to you and there's other stuff going on. Like
Yeah.
I
Yep.
can't, like, it's just so hard for me to like focus in on that one person because of the other things that are going on in the
The
room.
30 other things happen.
Because I'm so concerned
Yes.
about what's
classroom
happening.
safety management. Is he throwing a marker? What's he up? What's he doing over there?
And that's why I'm so like, and I even say to them sometimes like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention. It's like I'm listening to you, but I have to watch what's going on over there. Like I'll intentionally mention it to them because like I need them to know like I'm here, but I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I but from a parenting perspective too, I can see exactly where that could be very valuable.
Oh yeah. And I think one of those things, like when I was in the classroom every day, like one of the things to try to help that, I'm not saying I did this perfectly, is I know the two things, because to your point, Joe, about the burnout, like, and the lull, I would try to tap into things that I genuinely enjoyed in my classroom, or the reason that got me started working with students. And one of the things I've always enjoyed, as just even when I was a young kid, was like, like serving. Like, I know it sounds silly, but I thought being a waiter was the coolest job in the world. I know that sounds silly, but I thought it was awesome. Like, wow, you get to serve people and then like give them stuff they want, and et cetera. And that can be dangerous. That can go into people pleasing. And that's a separate podcast.
That's what my wife wanted to be when she was very little. She wanted to be a waitress.
There you go. And so one of the things I love is like, I just like, can I give somebody something that they would value? And so the two things I remember I enjoyed is when I would start hitting those ruts and those times, I would try to find certain kids that had, we're not talking about the all-stars, but you can if you need to. I was talking to those kids who turned that C into a B, and I would call home. And I love once again, I love the parent reaction, because they'd be like, what do they do now? And be like, no, this is just Mr. Gonzalez calling up to say, man, they turned in this PowerPoint project about ancient Greece, and they just did such an awesome job. And I just wanted you to know that. Okay. Is there anything else? No, that's it. Just wanted to let you know. Or like, when you tell them, hey, stay after class real quick. And of course they're thinking the worst, because every time they hear stay after class from an educator, it's like, oh, I did something bad. And it's like, hey, I know I didn't get a chance to tell you, but man, you've done a really great job, and I'm very proud of you. Okay, you can go. Let me know if you need a hall pass. And it's like, it's like that moment where, no one's really saying that to them. And even if they are saying that to them, someone taking time out of their schedule, that 20 seconds, like I know for me, made me feel amazing. And then I know for them, like, it's exponential what that does. Like you said, how they walk down the hallway, how they go into the next class, and everyone's like, ooh, did you get in trouble? What do you say? You actually just said, like, I did really good. Or a lot of times they won't say it because they're kind of embarrassed. They'll be like, whatever, nothing, man, nothing. Like, okay, all right.
If it's a small community, a more urban, suburban, it doesn't seem to really matter. We're seeing these problems with education everywhere,
right?
Everywhere.
It's systemic at this point, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, you actually use the word epidemic in your article, and I don't think you're wrong. I'd also be interested to hear like your mom's perspective, especially because she's been on it seems like all sides of the fence, right? She's been a classroom teacher. She's been and how long has she been in education, if you don't mind me asking at this point? I mean,
I want to say I know it's over 30 years, but I don't know. It's less than 40 over 30.
Yeah. And again, it's the changes that she's probably seen are exactly what, we've seen, Jamie and I, over the last, 25 years in our career.
Yes.
And that's where I think your article, that's why I think your article that you wrote resonates with so many people. And I think that also where you talk about like, these are life skills that kids need, right? They're not going to have their parent next to them at all times. So they need to be able to advocate for themselves, to have healthy relationships. And we're not creating that if we're not parenting them at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we go from this idea of, gentle parenting, and you want to be everyone's friend, or do you want to hold them accountable to what the standards are in your home? And that's where I think some things start to be a little bit lax, and it becomes difficult for us in the classroom when you have situations like that.
Have you ever thought about this? And I do consider myself a teacher's teacher. I have to, as a parent, though, I'm going to say, do we think at all that the stressors that have been placed on teachers, as far as academic testing, our SGOs, and how we're being evaluated, and what we expect the kids to do at what age, is at all affecting like the teachers' behavior towards the students, and the students are feeling that stress and responding back to it? My own kids, it's like they are in this traditional 2-parent, go to the doctor, fill out the form, how many degrees do you hold? I always tell my students that. I'm like, when you go to the doctor's office, you have to fill out how many degrees you hold when you're filling out a form for your children. And as if like that's going to definitely have some sort of bearing on, right? Like some sort of medical, clearly it's always on every form. And so if you take the formula of like exactly what you're supposed to have for children, we have 2 educated people, married, religious, right? All a box, check. And I find my own kids come home with stories of things. And I definitely try to go in with the perspective of, all right, we're going to calm down. We're going to talk about what happened. That can't really be what happened. And I have to say that there have been a couple of instances where 100% they were 100% telling the truth. And it was not an okay situation. So what do you do as a parent, right? I feel like that's such a trick in parenting. How much do you step back, and how much do you say, do I see? And I think it is much more difficult when you are a teacher, because you have to do a very delicate dance of, what do I say? What do I not say? Do I step in? Do I not? I don't know. And sometimes I try to figure out, like, I know that they're well-meaning people. I know that they're doing their best job, or they're trying to do the best job. I don't know if it's like, there's so many things being thrown at educators. Try this program, do this quiz, play this game. And it's almost this flurry that is now raining down on the kids as well. And they're sort of responding to that. And just as like a opposite sort of, as someone who is currently parenting 3 people that are, I kind of see both sides of it. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. I do definitely think that is sometimes the case. I think sometimes you do have a teacher who is overwhelmed and reacts poorly, or, something happens in the classroom that should not happen in the classroom. I definitely think that occurs. And absolutely, kids should go home and tell their parents, like, this thing happened to me. This feels wrong. Like, I don't think this, this doesn't feel safe, or it doesn't feel acceptable, or whatever it is. And in that instance, I do think it's appropriate for the parent to maybe be the one to contact the teacher if the child is, not feeling safe about the situation. My biggest issue with situations like that is I feel like parents often skip that step. Like, they often get upset with the teacher, and they don't confront the teacher about the problem. They jump over their head and confront the administration, and same with coaching. I think that happens a lot.
Talk about negative energy. There was a post I was looking at literally this morning, and it was this gentleman talking about how to focus on controlling your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your feelings. And that when you put out into the universe, I'm angry, the universe goes, yeah, you want to be angry. So I'm going to give you all sorts of other stimuluses that are going to make you angry. So that's what you want, and that's what you're going to get. So, and I was listening to that, and I was like, okay, damn. I guess and I try to. We all get to points where we are done. We had these conversations at the end of the year. Like, I was like, I'm done. I'm done with this. I am over this. I'm moving past it. This is how I'm approaching it. There's nothing more I can do. The famous Mr. Wonko password, I have nothing left to give. Like that is literally, and it takes so much for me to get to that point.
Yeah.
It really does. It also takes a lot for me to like let it all out. My wife likes to say can of snakes because I get to the point where it's like, yeah, you get everything. Yeah. What's that? You broke your pencil point? God! And I go crazy. Yeah. Not on a student, but like there have been, I had one of those moments, and to the point where I had to call that person and be like, hey, you know that wasn't directed at you. I just needed to get it out. And I got it out. And I even said like, okay, I just needed to get it out. I'm good. And we laughed. And she's like, you don't need to apologize. I completely got it. It wasn't a thing. But like, since I have an OCD and I'm in my own head and I'm like, I think she's mad at me. She hates me. I'm a jerk. And then I have to like immediately have that conversation. You know, that's part of the, you know, not to be cliche about the name of our podcast, but that's part of the balancing act of doing this job. I don't think that there are people that get frustrated in their jobs, that get frustrated with coworkers. I don't think anybody outside of our profession puts up with the things that we put up with, deals with the behaviors that we deal with. And that doesn't mean they don't understand. I think that's a better way of putting it. I don't think they understand what we deal with.
No.
Where I had a moment at the end of the school year and I came home on a Friday and I was like, nope, I don't want to interact with anyone.
Yeah.
I need 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit on my porch and have a drink by myself. I'm going to just put some music on and I'm going to sit outside in the sun. And that's what I'm going to do because that's what I needed in that moment. Because when you are making as many decisions as an air traffic controller, not of importance, but of number, you get to a point where you're like, I need a break. I don't want to decide what's for dinner. Even to the point where my wife was planning our vacation and it was like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care. I do. But I'm fine with whatever you decide to plan. You want to do whatever you want to do, whatever the kids want to do, they want to do, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, we should go to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Okay. The kids should see that. It's an amazing experience. But outside of that, whatever you want to do. I mean,
and do you think that maybe like Sarah Marshall's going to be there? Do you think maybe you'll show the kids that movie before you go?
I have seen that movie. I don't remember that movie. I don't remember it. I've seen it. Jason, what's his name? Jason Segel, right? Is Jason Segel in Forgetting Sarah Marshall? Is it the right one? Is it the right name or no? You're going to make me...
Jason Segel, Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis, yes. Okay, yeah, I know the movie. Yes. And you go, I
remember. Must be from London. It's the best.
Is that the one with Russell Brand? Russell Brand is in that.
Russell Brand is in it. And he's like,
okay.
oh, my
now, again, I have seen
take the shirt. Oh.
I have seen the movie. I don't remember every scene from the movie.
See it again. I will say one thing that I'm looking forward to doing this summer is something that is from that movie, which is to like go out anytime you go out to eat, which we of course will do lots of when we're away on vacation. The most glorious time of the year when no one has to ask me what's for dinner because you know, it's already been scheduled so they can read it on the itinerary. Is in that movie, they go to the breakfast buffet. And it's kind of like this thing where like nothing bad can ever happen at the breakfast buffet, you know? And all the couples are taking pictures of one another eating, which is like such a dumb, but like a very like honeymoon-ish type of thing to do.
Yeah.
But they are always like, and they have like the knife and the fork and whatever the food is. And it's always like, and I have so many pictures of Jason and I in like random restaurants doing that because it just always makes us laugh and cry. Just Sarah Marshall, just laugh and laugh and laugh. If you should really everybody maybe not watch it as a family. I feel like it might be a little bit dirty, but I'll have to text your kids and be like, watch this movie.
Joey will be like, okay, I'll watch it on Netflix in my bedroom by myself.
Oh my gosh. Jason recommended a movie to Joey and he was like, I bet Joey, he was like very curious to see if he was going to watch it. We'll have to check and see.
What was the movie? You're not going to tell me?
I think he said Pumping Iron.
Yeah, he watched it. Joey watched that.
Yes,
that was,
but then I think they were talking about Kill Bill, maybe? Kill Bill?
Yeah, he watched. I mean, it's a I don't want to use not the word violent movie. It's you know kung fu, karate, chopping, slicing people with swords and blood and gore and stuff like that. But it's not like overly.
I saw that
That's
movie at the theater.
At the theater
Yeah.
with your husband?
He was my boyfriend at the
Your
time.
boyfriend at the time. That's right. Were you petting his
Yeah.
eyebrows? We get a little, oh, let me pet those little
And then we were like-
caterpillars. Little caterpillars you got going on there. My little fiddler crab. I
Oh
miss
my
him so
gosh.
much.
So all the summer things and all the recharging of the batteries and the family trips and the all of the enjoyments. One of the things that I hear people talk more about than anything else is like how much their kids snack in the summer.
Oh yeah.
That's always like a funny thing that's posted online of like, how come kids want to snack so much? Boredom. And, just sort of, it's like, it does become like that magical time where people spend more time with their children and they start to like, appreciate teachers a little bit.
One would hope.
They're like, we know, or like the schools put on the sign, like tag you're it, like parents tag you're it kind of a thing, but having 2 or 3 kids compared to 100 every single day is
And I mean,
very
there are things that, again, not to give unsolicited parenting advice, but talking to your children, no matter what the age, what are your goals? What goals can we set for ourselves for the
Right.
summer? It doesn't need to be necessarily academic.
Yep.
Yes, it's great if they're reading. Yes, it's great if they're doing, math packets that they have to do. Like, those are things that need to be done. But, helping them, and this is the executive function side of me coming out. There are a lot of kids who do not know how to long range plan and backwards plan. So when they see, I cannot tell you how many times I heard this over the last month. There was a young man that I was working with who actually said it, and it made me laugh. And I'm like, I'm going to use that a lot. Because he said, like, yeah, I like think about those things and like I have to plan, but I'm like, yeah, that's a problem future me can deal with. And I'm like, I was like, but then he like made a decision and we talked about, okay, let's just plan out this one thing and see how it goes. He's like, what? We got to the end of the marking period and like, I didn't have a bunch of stuff I had to make up, or I didn't have
And he liked it.
like extra stuff. And it's like, he's like, it was such a weight like lifted off my shoulders that I didn't have like all this extra work. He's like, it actually like was kind of refreshing. And I was like, oh, tear.
Yeah. Do you do that job in the summer?
I do. It turns out that most of the students that I'm working with this summer, I'm deciding I took a break the end of June. So I didn't start till the last week of June. I only have one student that I'm working with this summer, and I have a stable of like 4 or 5 at various times, right? So that's what I normally work with. But a lot of them I have one that's going on a camp for 7 weeks. I have one of them like he goes to a camp and then he comes back and then he goes away and then I go away. So it's like, okay, well, why do we start for 1 week and then break for 5 weeks? I was like, let's just pick up in August. So it's kind of like, unfortunately, and these kids should be experiencing that. Go to camp.
Yes.
Go to sports camp. Go to, go do that stuff. That's amazing.
Yes.
But what are your other goals? And I have some students that like, we need to make a goal on structuring how to, and the reason why I bring up the whole idea of planning is like, sit down with your kids and plan with them. Okay, you have this project to do at the end of the summer. How much of it do you have to do per week in order to be successful?
Mm-hmm.
Break up those 5 hours that you would need total and do a half an hour a week and break it up and give them the scaffold it for them so they can see what that actually looks like. So they're not, scrambling at the very end of the summer, trying to do the summer reading packet or do the.
And you've been listening to the Balancing Act podcast. Have a topic we should discuss? Drop us a line at thebalancingactpod@gmail.com.